up a bar stool and relax.
Hey, who wants to have some fun?
You've made it to Happy Hour with John Gaskins.
Oh, no. Not again.
Get ready for entertaining local and regional sports talk that will change your life. Or not.
And by the way, when you're telling these little stories, here's a good idea. Have a point. It makes it so much more interesting for the listener.
Here's your host, John Gaskins.
Here's Johnny. Hello! Ah!
I'm back, baby! I'm back!
Welcome to Softball Today. I'm your host, John Gaskins.
Cheers, come on.
Here's Trent Singer and a happy softball toast to Lagunitas Hoppy Refresher. Non-alcoholic. They do sell great non-alcoholic drinks here at the...
For the kids.
At the Orion Pub. Yeah, for the 12-year-olds that like to come and pull up a stool here. At the Orion Pub in downtown Sioux Falls. It's Thirsty Thursday. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Wow, no exotic T-shirts today. Just you Kansas City Chiefs sweatshirt.
Free four.
Yeah. 3-4. What?
Rashee Rice.
Oh, okay.
You didn't hear about the news?
I did, yes. I did hear about the Rashee Rice news, yeah. So I did, I'm just kind of, but all I got is a Canaries T-shirt. But this is new. This is Canaries merch.
Hot team right now, man.
Simple, not a Jabari Henry video
They're
game
off today,
shirt.
right? Are they off today?
No, man. They're playing all week.
Are they still at home?
They're still at home. They're still at home through Sunday. Go out, sfcanaries.com.
Grand slam last night from Jabari.
Yeah, that was something.
My cousin took a really good Snapchat and then sends me a text message because I go to check my Snapchat to see if maybe he got the grand slam, and then I get a text message as I'm checking it from him saying that his dog, because it's Wagon Wednesday, knocked the phone out of his hands and he didn't get to save it. And then 20 minutes later, he just texted me back. I'm so pissed off right now.
Well, did you know your cousin Scotty, who I've met here at the Orion and is just a wonderful young lad, he
seat upgrade, right?
He got the seat upgrade last night at the Canaries game.
Who coaxed that? Was that you?
No, I never coaxed the seat upgrade. I used to. I actually was in charge of that. Yes, like just going and randomly picking people in the upper bowl and then
randomly.
Yeah. Yes.
No.
I have integrity. But now, like, there's a thing because we're a grown-up operation where people sit in the big yellow chair when you walk into the front gate at the bird cage, and you take your picture, and then they tell you, send it to this, scan the code and send it, you can get a seat upgrade.
Yeah.
And so it's an actual, so Scotty did
got
it, I guess. He was, and he got to sit behind home plate from like the fourth inning on.
That's where he got the grand slam, too. And
right.
The grand slam he didn't get.
The grand slam.
And Scotty happened to be. Well, okay. He happened to be videoing it though, which is what I thought was just hilarious. And then, because I wanted to see it, I really wanted to see the grand slam. And then
anyway, and he was with his dog
Bronson.
We got on camera for me to introduce Scotty as the fan of the game, and not only did I only remember his name and not remember his wife's, who I had met with him 2 weeks ago,
Kelsey,
and had just told me twice what her name was. That I still forgot when I got on camera because I'm really good at my job. And then I forgot their dog's name because I was like, is it Brunson? What did he say? I asked him twice. Bronson. They told me, and then we go on, and I just have amnesia. But it was also, I was getting him mixed up with Jalen Brunson.
Oh,
you know, like
we're in that time, man.
We're in that time. There's a lot going on. That includes in our local sports scene here on a Thirsty Thursday from Orion Pub, because I open with Welcome to Softball Daily because we have never talked about so much softball in our lives. And it's fine. And it's, a bunch of big softball news this week. Very controversial. Robert Wagner gets fired at USD without even the mention of his name in the release of the announcement that there's going to be a change in leadership. I've got some new stuff on that. John Schimmel, the AD, has gotten back to me about this. I'll share what I'm able to share in a moment. And we're waiting to see who the next softball coach is going to be. Is it going to be Shannon Pivovar, whose big moment went viral in the big trip to Lincoln that Coyote softball just had for their best moment in school history? So we've tried to do our reporting. We've also done our opining. Matt Zimmer and I talked about it a lot yesterday, and so we'll move it forward today. But part of the discussion was, well, we don't know if Gretta Melstead would take the job at USD, but you offer it to Augustana's how many time NSIC champion coach?
6 tournament, 8 regular season.
Oh, my goodness. How many trips to the College World
14.
Series? 14 to the NCAA tournament.
Yep.
In 20
4
years.
to the College World Series.
4 to, so just, obviously, Gretta. Just a Sioux Falls institution. And she got a new head coaching job at the University of Minnesota, not the University of South Dakota. Their coach, Piper Ritter, was fired 13 days ago. And Minnesota had been kind of a Big Ten powerhouse. The previous 2 coaches had incredible records, but it did not go well for Piper. Just barely over 500 at a school that's used to winning, that was winning 73% of its games in the decade before she got there. The coach she replaced left for Ole Miss and is still there. So Minnesota wanted a softball upgrade, and they got it in Gretta Melstead, and good for them. What a hire. There's a lot we can get to with this. But that's where I will start. Is she is a Minnesota native, Albert Lee. She went to college and played softball at Carleton, which is in the Twin Cities area, Division III. And so this is a homecoming of sorts for Gretta Melstead. And when we chatted with her a year ago about her softball life and journey here on Happy Hour, she did admit she had passed up higher level jobs than the one she has to continue her D2 powerhouse at Augustana. And I asked her about, you guys almost went Division I. You wanted to go Division I. Well, how did you feel about that at the time? And she basically said, I'm a trooper. I'll follow along, but I would have missed competing for national championships. And I said, yeah, because I think you guys would have done pretty well in the Summit League the second you got there. And she did not dispute that. But she said that, she has stayed at Augustana partly because of that. And so she takes the job at the University of Minnesota today. It all makes sense. Like if Gretta Melstead was going to leave, her perch is like the queen of northern softball. Yeah. Okay, not just the NSIC, but like North Country softball. This was it. It makes total sense. If she was ever going to leave Augie, it would be for this job. Certainly a job in the Big Ten. She wasn't going to just move to a mid-major because it's not that much better of a job than Augustana. But this is like the job for her. I haven't asked her if it is. Just
you can assume.
Fairly confident in my assumption that this was one of the few jobs she would actually, because now she gets to compete for Big Ten championships and therefore national championships at the highest level.
100%. And I'll take it a step further because I think we brought it up last week on Thursday. I just briefly touched on it. Her son, both of her sons are goalies. They play hockey here in Sioux Falls. Talk about a change of scenery for her sons and getting the opportunity to now play in a very hockey-centric place in Minnesota. And then on top of that, playing for a program where you will obviously be expected to compete for national championships. You're playing in the Big Ten. What an opportunity, man. And all the reaction I've seen on social media from Gophers fans has been just so positive. I think they're excited about this hire too, and as they should be. An outstanding coach and human, really, that they're bringing along. I'll make it no bias or not hide my bias at all in saying that she is literally maybe my favorite coach at Augie. I love getting the chance to just talk with her. She's just one of the more human coaches that you'll ever truly sit down with. And there's a lot of those at Augie. I'm not, knocking any of the other ones, but there's something about Gretta. There's a charm there when you talk to her. I interviewed her for 15, 20 minutes for a story I did on Kiera Lubavitch last week. And then we talked for 30 to 45 minutes about her sons playing hockey. Yeah. It's just like that with her, right? And little did I know, there may have been some conversations certainly happening at that point, and probably hockey was on the mind for her. So an awesome opportunity. My understanding is I think she's bringing Kelsey Thompson with her. Okay. And so, that's out of the question as far as, bumping up her in that position. An awesome opportunity for Kelsey Thompson. She's been a crucial piece of her recruiting process while she's been a coach at Augustana too. Kelsey Thompson runs South Dakota Renegades team, a club team where Augie has gotten a lot of players. And man, I'm really, really curious to see. I'll be following closely some Minnesota softball, a program I didn't care about at all before, but now I love their coach and kind of the Ben McCollum effect for me.
Well, the McCollum effect?
Well, I kind of started following Iowa basketball when they hired Ben McCollum.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Now I see.
You tracking?
It's tracking now. Thank you. Ditto on everything you just said about Gretta as a person. And you've mentioned how Gopher fans, from what you've seen, have been excited. I mean, Cordell, video producer, illuminated me to somebody went and dug up a tweet from our show, this statement from Gretta. I'm going to guess these are Gopher fans like, who is this? What is she about? Whatever. And they found this.
Probably having
that
those
was 90
expectations
seconds of Gretta basically outlaying
and holding each other accountable,
what Augustana softball is all about, what she's all about as a coach, as you mentioned,
those expectations.
the human
I would
side
say
of
that's
it that she
probably
brings to the players, but at the back end, you heard, X's and O's strategy. I mean, she's all about.
We're all about
to win, and
we're all about building.
What a run they had.
We
They
want to
weren't very
apologize
good
for it. Very strong women,
and then they just rip off 10 out of 11.
We want to produce very confident, strong women who feel like they can go
as a 5 seed
and change the world.
What a last hurrah!
And so that's
those 90 seconds you just heard.
That's what we're about. We just use softball as the venue, and I think the more I coach, the more I've been okay
90
about.
seconds of this is what I am all about.
That's
this is
always
why
been my
Augustana
goal.
softball has been,
but it's more what we
incredibly
focus on.
successful for 20 years, and this is
and
what
trust
I would
me,
bring
we
to the
focus on the
table
X's
if
and
I were
O's
to
and
bring
the
it somewhere
details
else.
of softball.
And clearly,
but we
Mark
really
Coyle
try to
in
put
Minnesota
everything in the
took
context
flyer.
of like,
bigger life. Some were
lessons
joking like
and
Minnesota
keeping
media
things in
were
perspective
joking that when
and
Garrett Lemoyne, isn't this crazy?
being able to handle yourself
Second
when
Augustana
you
coach to
leave
be
and
offered
life
or at
throws
least
you
strongly
curveballs
considered for a
and
Golden
things like
Gopher
that.
job.
And I
Garrett
think
stayed.
that's
and when
really
Matt and I were talking
what my
about this
job
yesterday,
is.
Zim and I were like, well, maybe she'll stay. She wouldn't go to USD because she got such a great gig at Augustana, and USD is probably not that much better of a gig. And she got the kid in hockey and just stay put. But like Garrett Lemoyne.
Yeah.
But like he turned down Minnesota probably for a lot more money. And so, but she took it. And I think it's because it feels like this is the one and only this is absolutely what I would take. If I were to, it would take this to leave Augustana.
I think she's shown incredible chops as a recruiter, though, too. Yeah. I mean, God, 813, 313 record at Augie. 813 wins at Augustana in 20 years. That's incredible.
Yeah.
And it's a program, too. I mean, like, historically, too, they'd been good in the NSIC. But Gretta just, to maintain that, it's not easy, especially when you start talking about a conference where you have some Minnesota teams and you have some teams up in North Dakota and some places where, you're battling with some of those players, right? She brings in a lot of Minnesota players. It's what the area she knows the best.
Of course.
She does a really good job recruiting here. I'm curious to see. I think there's some talent around here that she certainly could draw up to a place like Minnesota. Yeah. And I'm really there is some really good softball in the Sioux Falls area. And now she's got a footprint there, right? She's been here 20 years. She knows this area probably just as well as she does the area where she comes from. And
another reason why she's the perfect hire. I don't know who the other candidates were, and I don't really care.
I really don't.
But like it all checks out and makes sense.
We've been talking about when is Gretta going to get an opportunity like this for a while.
She has, but I don't know if it's been like this.
Yeah.
Again, I mean, Zim's fairly confident she turned down a South Dakota State offer within the last decade.
Wouldn't surprise me at all.
And that wouldn't surprise me at all either because not that much of a step up.
Well, people
underestimate
100%. I think a lot of fans who aren't as glued in or understand, maybe Augustana's facilities are underestimating it. Yeah. I mean, you talk about hockey. Obviously, they've got a brand new hockey arena. I think they have one of the best D2 football arenas in the country. Yep. I love that. I love Kirkby Over Stadium. On top of that, their baseball stadium is hosting the state tournament this weekend, and it's a fantastic facility. Bowden Field just got those new lights put in a few years back, too. It's a fantastic softball facility. They've hosted conference tournaments and everything there. The step up to go to USD or SDSU is not quite a step up. It's pretty linear. Yeah. As far as facilities, as far as what the athletic department, how the athletic department views you, I think it's really valued in Augustana, especially those coaches. I think that's one thing I will give Josh Morton a lot of credit for is stepping into this role. He's been able to continue to continue down the paths of some of these coaches that have come before him that have been really successful. Tim Huber, Jerry Olszewski, Gretta Melstead. You could argue there's been some others that have gone by way, but in keeping people like them around, they have maintained a level of success.
Yeah.
Gretta won a national championship there in 2019. Huber won one in, I believe it was 2017, right? So
18.
you're talking 18,
Yeah.
So you're talking about like two coaches that, we've heard a lot of chatter that they probably could have gone on for better jobs. I think OJ's right in that same conversation too. And they've stuck around because there's value there that a lot of people really don't, from the outside, don't see. I mean, you just go there and see those facilities because they are some top-notch facilities. And I'm in agreement when you talk about viewing a job like USD and SDSU as not quite a step up. It's a little bit more linear than I think a lot of people would expect.
Well, they operate like a Division I operation.
Yeah.
And it's intentional. They wanted to very badly go to the Summit League in Division I, and the Summit League wouldn't invite them. And so they'd already made some commitments. They'd already been updating facilities like baseball and softball. And
Elman's getting a huge upgrade right now.
That was built in 2010, long before any days they had Division I in mind. And it's not big, but it's beautiful.
Yep.
Obviously, Midco Arena is a division. It's the smallest, but still Division I quality. Yep. And who knows? It might happen someday. Summit League could use some teams.
Yeah.
But anyway, they operate. But what's been the advantage of that is, again, they pivoted. Stephanie Herseth-Sandlin had a lot to do with it, but so did Josh. And together they have pivoted to, okay, we're D1 hockey and we're D2 everything else, like Mankato is, like St. Cloud is.
State.
And it's working, and it keeps them elite at D2. And but for Josh Morton, it's a big moment, even though it's quote-unquote only softball. It's not one of the big sports, but it is
100%.
big because Gretta's made it so big there. And look, you are so correct. Like, he hasn't really had the opportunity to make the big hires. But he has for men's and women's basketball.
Garrett Rabwin, too.
He hires Cody Schilling to replace a legend in Tom Billiter. So far, so good. I mean, Cody got his footing underneath, went 12-20, but then came right back and won 20. Second place in a really tough 14-whatever team league the NSIC is. So that's going well. Women's basketball totally whiffed on the replacement for Dave Krauth. And that went 1 year. It was a disaster. I felt bad for the lady because I played golf with her and she was wonderful and I got to be friends with her husband. But it was a bad hire, bad move. You move right on. And it's been an uphill climb for Nate Vogel, and we'll see what happens there. I think the jury is still out. Football, he hasn't had to make a decision because OJ's been there, continued to be successful, and they do what they need to do to keep him happy in there. But at Augie, softball is a high-profile sport because of the success of Gretta.
Yep.
And so it'll be interesting to see what move he makes and where he goes. You've already answered the question. Like, the first person you would think of on staff is going with Gretta to Minnesota. So
likely.
Likely.
What I've hersed is Kelsey Thompson's likely following her to Minnesota. They're pretty tied together, and it's not surprising at all. I'm in full agreement. This is an era of college athletics where you can't sit around too much to try to, you got to act quick. You're talking about players potentially jumping, and they've been so good with player retention at Augie over the years. As far as the softball program, baseball programs have been pretty good with it too. But this is going to be a challenge now, and now Josh is going to have to act pretty quick to, I'd say find the right person here to fill some big shoes, man. Those are some big shoes from Gretta Melstead.
As I do so often, I interrupted my own sentence a few minutes ago, and no one remembers or cares, but I'll circle back to there was jokes about Garrett Raboyne turning down the Gopher job from Minnesota sports media because who would want to work for Mark Coyle? And you can Google Mark Coyle and you can go ahead and do that, but
I don't think that's the reason he turned it down.
No, those are just jokes. But obviously, Gretta Melstead doesn't mind working for him because, again, you're going to a place that has had success in softball and went through 6 lean years. So guess what? She's probably well welcomed. And what were you snickering about?
I just say they're very similar scenarios, vastly different opportunities.
Interesting.
The pressure isn't quite there for softball as it is in hockey.
No.
But I will say, like, I love the similarities you're striking, right? Yeah, you got one coach here who was so content, but he's also, like, only been here a few years and wants to, he loves this place and wants truly to see what more he can get out of it.
Yeah.
And Gretta's been here 20 years. So the scenario, right, they differ in that sense too. Gretta's this opportunity for her, like, it's been a long time coming. We could talk circles around that, but I've been saying for probably 3 or 4 years since I've really been covering this team and this program closely, when is Gretta Melstead going to get on the radar of some big programs? And here it is.
Yeah. Well, you can get on the radar. It's another thing to get hired. Maybe she applied for the job that Piper Ritter got. Piper was an assistant for a very successful coach that moved on to Ole Miss. So 16-36 this past year. Mm-hmm. So there's work for Gretta to do. And in this day and age, a lot of coach leaves. A lot of players are probably going to leave. But maybe they'll stick around for her. And she probably has an idea of who to bring with her, either from Augie or who she's already been trying to recruit to Augie. And the last point about this is you almost never see this hire, this day and age, this kind of hire from the big sports. You don't hire in Power 4, especially Big Ten, like the biggest kind of most prestigious Power 4 league there is. They don't hire Division II coaches. No. They don't.
I mean, even Ben McCollum had to go to Drake before he went to Iowa.
Yep. Yeah, it only took a year because he went 31-4.
Immediately proved it. But that is, to me, that's a thing, like, Ben McCollum is a perfect example of why I think coaches should be looking at the D2 level more. I think there's a lot of coaches that get passed up that don't get that opportunity.
Yeah, but when you're athletic director and a president of a big university, you just can't. You used to be able to. You can't justify a D2 hire, even if it's the best person for it. Those coaches have to go somewhere first to prove it. Jimmy Rogers, all he needed to do was go 500 at Washington State, which is good at Washington State, to get the Iowa State job. There's examples like that all over the place. And in fact, McCollum, 1 year at Drake, a year after Darren DeVries, it was a year at West Virginia to get the Indiana job. Anyway, I buried the lead of our guest today. Eric Henderson's on the show today.
Hey!
Hendo! Maybe we'll have to re-record the opening. Just kidding. We have a thing called social media. We have a thing called social media where people will, find out Hendo's on the show. But I guess in softball, either in softball it's more common. I don't know. I don't really care.
Has to be.
Or Gretta's has such an incredible resume as a D2 coach and knocked her interview out of the park so well. And the recruiting footprint, all that, Minnesota girl made so much sense that's maybe the rare time you're going to hire a Division II coach. But she gambled on not taking mid-major jobs to get this one, and it paid off. She just stayed and kept Augustana awesome. And just hats off and thank you for your service, and we'll miss you.
For sure.
And we'll get her on the show at some point. When things have settled down over there. Now to mid-major softball and the USD situation. I've got some new information. There's only so much I can share, but I think I want to carry the conversation forward because there's so much vitriol, and when a coach leaves or is let go and there's mystery over it, and the university says very little about it, and you don't hear anything from the head coach after he releases a tweet, then. Now people start talking, and now people start accusing, and I've heard from both sides. And you go out to Happy Hour with John Gaskins on Twitter. You can see some responses as to people who think they know what's going on over there. And I'd love to get your reaction to all this. Any dots you've connected from your perspective?
Well, I think the thing that really unsettles people is after you have a season like that. And you see a change of direction, you automatically assume that there's something behind the scenes that we're not truly seeing. So everybody already wants to go ahead and connect the dots. I think the reality is that a lot of times there is stuff that the common fan and the common person just doesn't know.
Yes.
And decisions are made, that reflect that. It is hard to evaluate because they just did put together this crazy run where they're 20-34 or whatever it was, and they win a game at the NCAA Regional, which is not easy to do for a program, especially a program that comes in as a 4 seed like that. And you automatically just start kind of making your own assumptions of what's going on, and I think it's best left up to the people who are making these decisions to address it head on.
Yeah.
I mean, it truly is. And, a lot of times there's not the right time to say it, or when you're in the middle of a turnover or a change, you can't. I expect that we'll hear something from John Schimmel at some point, but, I trust that there were the decisions were made in the right interest of the players in the program.
Yeah. So far, instant reactions on Twitter and by me on this show, by Zimmer yesterday, were everything you just said. They had the greatest run, the greatest season in school history, and what the F? Yeah. And then the man's name was not even mentioned, and he was not thanked for his service, 10 years to the school. Well-documented, under-facilitated, under-resourced program by both the previous administration and this one. Whether that's absolutely true or not, I don't want to go to the details, but it's not a hotball It's not a softball hotbed. By the way, non-alcoholic drink, and I didn't have any alcohol before this.
It's a hotball soft bed out here.
Tough place to win in a lot of sports, including softball. The nature of the size of the town, the weather in a spring sport, all that. Okay, and so he did the best he could, and he came. So we've gone through all that. Like, it just. Whoa, but the record wasn't great, and you have an athletic director, as we have documented, within a few months on the job. Bob Nielsen's retiring. Some have alleged that he was forced into retirement. Can't confirm that solidly, publicly, but that happens, and he makes the right football hire, and he makes the right women's basketball hire, and then he gets a lot of controversy and flack for not renewing Eric Peterson, who to this point, love the guy, and he did an awesome coaching job last year with so many injuries, but Petey's never reached a Summit League tournament championship game, and after 5 years, no matter what you inherited, that's tough, and this guy isn't the guy who hired him, and a lot of athletic directors want to hire their own coaches, and so having said all that, those are the conclusions we rush to right now. How dare they not acknowledge how unclassy? You've seen the reaction from a lot of angry USD fans. From Zim and I, we just kind of go, well, that's a head scratcher. That's telling that nothing was said. Yeah. But maybe, just maybe, you basically said everything that I was going to bring to the table today. Perhaps we don't know the full story here. Yeah. Perhaps there is a good, solid reason why John Schimmel did not even acknowledge Robert Wagner in the release about there being a change in leadership in softball. And look, again, you can follow my Twitter account. There's been accusations as to what was going on, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm going to give them oxygen. I just kind of did, I guess. But I can't, because I don't know who these people are with the accusations. John got a hold of me today, because he wanted to, because he had not gotten a hold of me, and that was also the tell, right? He's not talking to media, and again, there's a lot of conclusions you can make from that, but he obviously is not comfortable, nor is probably the school and people above him talking about the situation and why Robert Wagner's no longer the coach. No. We can firmly say his contract was not renewed. That's different from getting fired. It's kind of the same thing, but it's not. When you have a contract that's up for renewal, you don't have to. It's not 100%. Technically a firing. You don't have to have you technically do not have to have a reason. Yep. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I've seen coaches in the CCHA. Yeah. I can recall, Michigan Tech made a change at coach. Mm-hmm. They just won a CCHA championship and had been really successful under Joe Sean. And there was a contract renewal. They didn't renew it, and they opted to bring in Bill McCult. That's pretty typical. When especially a lot of times if you're an administrator and you see an opening, and you can go that route because it's publicly and PR wise it plays better and you want to make a change and that's essentially what happened at Michigan Tech. Okay. And I'm assuming that it's a similar situation here at USD.
John Schimmel just has told me that he's unable to say really anything. Okay. But there is part of me that was wondering, and I was going to bring this to the table today before he got back to me. It was like the movie Draft Day. I wrote, when Kevin Costner writes down the name of the draft, no matter what happens today, remember to say or do this. And again, we've kind of said it, but I'll use these exact words. Often, if a dismissal was announced with such a lack of acknowledgement and appreciation, it might mean there is a lot more to the story than has met the eye. Those are my words. I wanted to make sure, and so I repeated that today. And so it feels like, without me knowing exactly why he was let go, that's as far as we can take it right now.
Yeah.
And that perhaps, and keep in mind, this is a public university, and this is a government-run operation. When it comes to anything regarding employment and a release of employment, human resources, takes a while for things to get sorted out. And that's why people really don't talk and stay quiet. And so maybe, just maybe, yes, there's a track record of the way John Schimmel has approached coaches and making coaching leadership changes so far, and staff leadership changes in his staff. Most of it's new there.
Yeah.
He wanted his own people. And some of the people that have been speaking out against this have been people who used to work there, and that is typical in a situation. Those are the people who tend to speak out. But again, it could just be he's biting a bullet. I'm not for sure. I don't know that if he is, but he might just be biting a bullet because he has to.
Take this into account too. When a lot of times, and you can say that's the way that Schimmel's acted in terms of, maybe wanting his own coaches in there, whatever. You can make your assumptions on why they have a different football coach, why they opted not to renew Hendo.
And we all agree he operates aggressively.
Well,
we all agree that.
My bigger point is, why do some ADs do that? Well, the reason they do that is, in my mind, it's to establish a level of loyalty within your athletic department, right? Okay. Is that fair to assume? I don't think that the difference in the softball head coach has any sway over that. You're talking, a lot of times when ADs do this, it's the bigger programs. It's football, it's basketball. It's the programs that you have the most fan interest in. There's not a ton of fan interest in softball at USD. There's some, but getting your own softball coach isn't giving yourself a better position as in your role as athletic director at USD. So I don't see any merit to the idea that John Schimmel wants to put his guy or his gal as the head coach at USD. There's no reason as to why that would be a thing.
Yeah, it's not a highly paid position. Yeah. And also, a lot of money has been raised and thrown into the big sports at USD, like a lot of schools in America. Dakota Dome renovations, a new arena for basketball, new training facility for a lot of the athletes, and softball to a degree. It's gotten some refurbishments, enhancements, and Wagner was hopeful more would come. When he was on my show last week after winning the Summit League tournament, sounded like a guy that was planning on still being the USD softball coach for sure. His tweet about stepping away lended to he wanted to finish his career there. What I can tell you that I feel comfortable saying is this is a man who had just moved into a new house, whose wife just got a new job in town, and whose daughter is a star pitcher on the high school softball team there. So even though he was kind of getting up there in age, and it's been a guy who coached most of his career in the Pac-12 and was not used to these sort of adverse conditions and limited resources, and slugged through winning about 40% of his games throughout his career before this lightning bolt the last 2 weeks. This was not a guy that had a foot out the door. Yeah. Okay. So whether this blindsided him, I don't know. The other thing to go off of is, have there been players who have rushed to social media or in media at all who have rushed to defend him? And I can't say I've actively tried to seek out the social media accounts of his players, but by now it'd probably be circulating. Like if somebody, and that's not to say there's several players on the team. On any team, some players might like a coach, some might not like a coach. Yep. But you've gone through this, and I have, where at the college level, the players are made unavailable for comment when something like this happens, and so that's why it was very bizarre to you and to me on Monday. Yeah. That you were not able to talk to Robert Wagner or any of the players. Yeah,
the players. My understanding, though, from Sports Information was that the players are gone. Yeah, and so they were made unavailable. Okay, but which, I don't know. If
it felt like something else. Obviously, was brewing to the point. So I'm trying to get a hold of Robert Wagner because he deserves to be able to tell his side of the story if he wants. And so this is definitely very much to be continued. Yeah. But I would, And social media-wise, some people spit out accusations on social media that turn out to be true. A lot of people don't. And you got to consider the sources one way or the other of what you read on social media.
Just remember, they're called fans for a reason.
Yes. So...
Because they're fanatics. They think with their heart.
Fanatics, yeah. So Cordell's calling Trent's sweatshirt.
It's okay, Cordell.
Yeah, he's
still hurting from the Timberwolves.
Well, he's a Vikings fan, and they've never won a Super Bowl.
I know. This is just He's just projecting.
Well, speaking of racking up titles, because I think we've exhausted all that we need to today about USD softball, I think it's safe to say we may learn some more information in the future, and there's good reasons why we don't have a lot of public information to this point. And so don't just rush to immediate conclusions.
Yeah.
And we've tried to do our very best here on this show and with Matt yesterday. You can assess what you know. John Schimmel's record, everything that we know about USD softball the last few days. You can connect dots, try to draw conclusions, but I think public service announcement. Let's encourage everybody to take a beat.
Yeah.
To see what we may learn in the near future. Stampede, though.
That's right.
1 win away, baby.
1 win away.
So Matt and I have talked a lot the last couple of days. Mm-hmm. Me on Monday, him yesterday or Wednesday. All we have basically said is, isn't this great? I mean, and the city, the attendance numbers for championship series, Canaries last year, way more than they were for the finals in 2008 when they won.
Yeah.
Attendance for the Stampede, to
Killer.
Zim's recollection, way more than the playoffs and championship series in the past.
Yep.
And so it's been mostly about, isn't this great for Sioux Falls, and isn't it cool the support they're getting? But let's talk about the actual team and how they dominated these first two games of the finals, 3-0 and 3-1.
They played both of them at home. Yeah. And I'll say this, I think that they were really battle tested from everything they experienced and going through teams like Lincoln and Fargo. It set them up really well. And then to come on your home ice, I mean, they drew nearly 6,000 on Friday night. They were over 6,000. I think it was 6,000, what was it, 880?
80.
Almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, so almost 7,000.
Almost Saturday night.
Almost 7,000 fans on Saturday night. They had a tweet out. It's gone, but it was. They said it was a USHL Tier 1 record with over 45,000 fans in, believe it would have been 8 playoff games at home. That's incredible. I got to talk with Ryan about it on Monday. Just more so about. I wanted to go back to when he first got the job. I was one of the first people to talk to him about it, and I remember how excited he was about the job. He'd been an assistant coach there for 1 year in 2022, and so he'd had a taste of what this fan base was like. But I wanted to ask him more so about how have the fans delivered, and then also how do you feel like this has been? How have you been able to do this in the playoffs? It's not easy, right? I mean, in the playoffs, you're talking about season ticket holders not having a guaranteed seat. You got to find ways to get fans in that you typically don't. And one thing that really stuck out to me was he said one of the first things he did when he first got this job was trying to connect the front office staff, the guys who work under Jim Olander, and all those people who work a lot of hours during the week. Get them connected with the guys in the locker room and the coaches and the hockey ops staff. And that, making them feel like they're all kind of part of a family. Let's celebrate the wins together, right?
Yeah.
And, John, we walk around there when we're waiting to talk with players and coaches, and you kind of sense that, right? That there's other, the video people and the social media people and the ticket sales guys. They all hang out in that lounge area right next to the locker rooms, and I think a part of that is. When you make them feel like they're truly needed in this whole thing, right? You make them want to bring fans into the door.
Yeah.
And it's been a motivating force, I think, for everybody. Top down. He said that the players on Sunday spent the day texting guys like Corey McDonald, the executive vice president, works in ticketing, texting the people who work in ticketing and thanking them for making that experience possible. Like, these are the players sending personal text messages to people who work within the front office, and that's empowering stuff. I mean, when you're working, a day in day out job where it can sometimes feel pretty thankless to get words of encouragement like that from the players, that means a lot. And then in turn, the players want to go out and play. They feel obligated because there's 6,000 fans up there, and they want to perform in front of them. They don't want to let those fans down. So I think it's worked hand in hand. And I wrote about that today in my column of how that kind of has been a sort of hand-in-hand deal. But yeah, you talk about the team on the ice, man. This is a team that I really, really like what I see 1 through 4 in those lines. I think defensively, Matthew Grimes has been one of the best defensemen in the USHL in the playoffs this run, and Noah Minoso, who's an Augustana recruit, just an outstanding defenseman. They've got Jake Prunty on that team. He could be a top 15 pick in the NHL draft next year. He's a rookie this year in the USHL. He leads all rookies and all rookie defensemen in scoring, and so there's a lot. There's a lot to take away from this team, man, and it even goes to Tony Gasparini and making some great offseason moves, bringing in guys like Tobias Omen, who had that amazing top-shelf goal to get the scoring started on Saturday night. Bringing in a bunch of different guys and a goalie, too, who Ryan has spoke endlessly about being the best in the league.
Usually it kind of starts there, right? Softball and baseball, it starts at pitching. It's not the whole thing, but a sport like soccer or hockey, it's the goalie. You got a good one, you got a chance every single night. And gives up only 2 goals a game, 94% save percentage. I'm guessing that's near the top of the USHL. You ask his biased coach, yes, he's the best goalie in the league, and it kind of starts there. But the other thing I found intriguing about this team, I mean, the proof is in the record. It's what I find interesting about the story of this team is that they had the second best record in the USHL, but they play like and consider themselves underdogs with a chip on their shoulder. And part of that is a story you've already told, we've talked about here, that a lot of these guys got cut from other teams. A few on the team got cut by Fargo, the team they just took out. And they've won a lot of close games. I mean, 4 of the 5 games in the Fargo series were 1-goal games. That's hockey. The scores aren't very high. It's usually 1 or 2 or 3 goals, but they've had some sort of grit that gets them through and allows them to. It's tough to win all those games. There's a lot of them. It's tough to win all of them. They won 4 in a row, including 2 on the brink of elimination. No, they didn't win all 4 of those, obviously, but they won 2 in a row on the brink of elimination. There were 4
combined.
out of the 5
combined,
games in the series were 1-goal games.
Yep.
You can't win 4 games in a 5-game series.
Yeah,
but they won the last 2, but in this one they're cleaning up. But it's like they're clearly through 2 games. Correct me if I'm wrong. This hasn't been puck luck. They've outscored Muskegon 6-1, and so. But I think even though the stats or the records shows they should be playing for a championship, we shouldn't be surprised that they've won 2 games with incredible home ice, and yet they still operate like they're underdogs, and to the point where, as we learned after the game on Saturday, for the first time all year. Yeah. Club ownership offered to fly them to Muskegon, Michigan.
And they said, nah.
And they said, no, we'll take a big, long, dumpy bus. I mean, sure, it's a nice bus, but
he says
it sucks bus rides suck. You've been on,
yeah,
you've all been on
fun.
Them. And that's at least 10 hours, I'm guessing. And
when you're with the boys, when you're with the boys, it's different, right? I'll say this, and we asked him.
Cordell says, no, it's not. Bus rides suck.
For them, it's different. They've been, and we talked about this, John. They've spent the last 2 series saying they just want to play another weekend. We just want to play again. Well, now here's the game. This is the game you've spent all season playing for, right? This is the one, and here they are. I think a lot of what you talk about too, though, with it being kind of their identity, right? That identity, that DNA starts from the coach.
Of course.
And Ryan Crothers is a Northeast Long Island guy from Farmingdale, right there on Long Island. And he had Ethan Wittenbach, who was one of the top players in college hockey last year on his first team last year. He's from Long Island. He's got guys from Staten Island. He's got guys from all up in that Northeast area on that team. And that is a that is part of it, right?
It's rugged.
It's a rugged, brash city.
And when you're in I'm not a big New York expert, but I think I understand it. When you're from Long Island, you're literally on the outside looking in.
Yes.
Of the big city, of the big party, of where it's all at.
I like the Game 1 story, right?
The Islanders compared to the Rangers. Enough said.
Their Game 1 story, a guy named Joey Macrina, the shortest guy on the ice. He's 5 foot. He's not even 5'6". He's 5'5.5", and they list him as 5'6". He scores 2 goals in that game, and propels them to their first win to kind of get the thing started. And then he had the game winner the night before, Tuesday night before when they beat Fargo. He had the game winner late in the game. This guy's been hot. It's guys like him that are what this team is. Yeah. It's Thomas Zocco. It's J.J. Montero, who I couldn't interview a few weeks back because he had his mouth sewn shut because he broke his jaw, and he was still playing through it. It's like that kind of player, that they have truly embraced with this team. And so I'm pulling the hell out of him to win this thing because I think Ryan's an outstanding coach. He another guy too who, amidst all this stuff going on, I sent him a message on Monday or on Sunday night and say, hey, just want to get ahead of it. Can I chat with you early this week before you guys head out? He said, whenever you want to chat, Trent, you can always chat. Thank you for everything you do. Like, that's just kind of who he is. Yeah. Called him up, texted him Monday. He says, hit me up at 2. Answers the phone. He's just always making himself available. Just a great dude, and I'm pulling for this team, man.
Yeah, as Zim said yesterday, you want him to just get it over with, win one of those 2 games in Muskegon.
Absolutely.
The sooner the better. There'll be watch parties at Buffalo Wild Wings both nights. I was there when they captured it 7 years ago, and it's,
they're going to bring that cup back here and do some sort of ceremony. Let's not kid ourselves here.
They have, for whatever reason, they've connected really well to the city and the community, and that's not lip service. It feels true. You felt it if you were there throughout the playoffs, but in my personal case, Saturday night. And I'm sure Buffalo Wild Wings will be rocking. But as Zim said, wouldn't we love to see a Game 5 in Sioux Falls to see what kind of crowd there would be?
It would be a hell of an environment, but I don't want to get to that point, man.
There.
I just remember watching the Canaries lose last year, and those crowds were great.
There's a little PTSD.
There's some PTSD.
I have convenient amnesia. I just tried to remember, seriously, just how awesome it was to have that many people. Were you at those games? Yeah, Cordell was there. You were at 1 or 2 of them.
I was at both of them, yeah.
I mean, it was just insane for 2-3 hours, those last 2 games. I mean, the crowds would increase throughout the playoffs, but wowzer, were they big and wonderful. And and the stampede of experiences, there's nothing like it. And speaking of that, Canaries are 5-1 to start the year.
Hey, go Birds!
And Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights, plus Sunday 4:05. Chances to go catch some early.
Chances to go watch
baseball.
Jabari Henry hit a grand slam and then drop your phone.
Yes, indeed. It's been beer league softball out there the last 2 days.
Has it? Yeah.
2 7-inning games, 9-6 lost game 1.
That
11-7
one was
win
wild.
game 2. 9-6 in 7 innings.
Yeah.
11-7 in 7 innings. And then last night was something ridiculous too. It was like 10-6.
That's fun, man.
But we're back to, at least for the Canaries, back to the top of the pitching lineup. Look, we had a full interview with Mike Meyer. Actually, we're going to hear from Canaries president Brian Jamros.
Oh, cool.
On this show today as well. About just the ballpark and everything beyond the baseball that the Canaries are providing and the stuff that you keep hearing about. Maybe a new park someday and all the things that the owners continue to do to make things better for the players and the fans.
I think I remember hearing you talk about the new park on the radio like when I first moved here.
Oh, I mean, before the Riverline thing. Was it before there was actual space?
Where would you put it now if you were going to do it downtown?
Well,
where would you put it?
I mean, I don't want to give everything away, but we talked about a possible new location. I mean, there's 130 acres that are going to be available in a few years.
Where's that? Where is this at?
Okay.
Oh, you're talking about the steel.
I can't tell if you were screwing with me or not. Yeah, where Smithfield is.
Yeah, Smithfield area.
Yeah. So, but it's going to take like 4 years to tear down Smithfield and just have the land ready for stuff to go up on it. But there's 130 acres, so a lot could go up there. And it's just going to make downtown even bigger. And you got the other side of Falls Park there, and that'd be a beautiful backdrop to walk into a baseball park, wouldn't it?
It'd be pretty sweet.
But it'd be a long way down the road. So for now, it's
no, it's just right down there.
We got the thank you. We got the charming old place where everybody knows your name, or something like that. All right, thanks, Trent.
Yeah,
appreciate it. Good times, great oldies.
Oh yeah.
Thank you, Cordell. Producer Cordell Wright. Eric Henderson, Brian Jamros of the Canaries coming up. That does it for this week on Happy Hour. So a happy hour, hoppy refresher. Happy hour. Cheers.
It's still happy hour with John Gaskins. This round's on me.
Well, everybody here in South Dakota and really the world now knows that Kalen DeBoer is a third-year Alabama football coach. He's ascended to the tops of the coaching ranks from Millbank, South Dakota, and the University of Sioux Falls, and he's won 86% of his games between USF and Fresno State and Washington and Alabama, and 2 college football playoffs in the last 3 years. And everybody around here knows Kurtiss Riggs, 11 titles with the Sioux Falls Storm, and wildly successful, influential regional academy for some of the most talented football players in our region. And that together, they set some records and won a national title for Bob Young in 1996 at USF. And then together, with Kalen as the head coach and Kurtiss on the headset, maybe with a little input, as the quarterback's coach, those two from 05 to 09 won 3 national titles in 4 years and a 69-3 mark together. And since then, they've been apart, at least in the business sense. And most people know they're like best friends. But what a lot of people don't know is how that came to be, how this all happened, and why it is stuck and why they've stuck together so well. So that's kind of what I thought would be a good reason to spend a few moments together. And you two are both busy, so I appreciate it. And by the way, we've established just before we went on that Kalen will only be referred to as Mr. Sir. He demanded that out of Kurtiss. So was that what it was like day one, Kurtiss?
I think it was the other way around, probably.
Okay.
No, most definitely not.
You always refer to the quarterback when you're the receiver. The utmost respect.
That's right. So, that's right.
You want to go back to where it all started.
Well,
that's where it started. So.
We could let's just go there. You guys are in the same class. Were you guys in the same class? Correct at USF?
No, I was a year ahead. I redshirted. And then Kalen came in the next year. So my actual freshman year playing was Kalen's freshman year.
Okay. And so how do we recollect you first meeting each other? Do you guys remember your first encounter?
I don't know the first encounter, but I was 2 doors down. And you really want to bring up some dirt now, don't you, John? You're going way back. And so I'm smiling when you start bringing up how it all probably started in the days. But,
yeah.
I was more of a troublemaker. Kalen was there to play sports. And my roommate and I, who also was a troublemaker from Wyoming too, Kalen, if we weren't practicing, he would sleep. And just all the time. And we couldn't believe he could fall asleep in just seconds and be out no matter what was going on. It didn't matter if we turned the lights on or anything. He was sleeping. And we thought, God, what an easy guy to get along with. And he had a roommate that was, had a lot of opposites of what he had. And so we just kind of hung out as we were practicing and it developed from there.
Pretty much what you're hearing is that I like to hang out with the troublemakers.
He felt sorry for us. Yeah. It's like, I got to straighten these guys out.
That's right. Go ahead.
So, Kalen, what was your first impression of Kurtiss? What was he like back then?
I remember it was all a blur to me because you just get thrown into a new place, and it's different then than it is now. I think about the recruiting process and all that. And a lot of these guys that come to our place now, they know these guys, and every single person was someone new that I'd never been around, maybe just a couple of guys, acquaintances at some point. So, the first day or two, I think a lot of it just had to get on the football field, and, that's kind of how you get to know each other. And, even then it was 3 practices a day. And so you were practicing and meeting, and there wasn't a lot of extra time. So, but it was very apparent as time went on that, we became friends, and they literally were 2 doors down from where I was at, and hung out a lot, and quickly grew that friendship. And even by the second semester, his roommate moved out, left the university, and we became roommates. So it didn't take long for us to connect. That's for sure.
What were your first impressions of Kalen, Kurtiss?
Well, on the football field, you notice the guy that, I mean, there's guys that have that innate ability to dive for a ball or compete for every single play. That was him. So as a quarterback, I'm like, geez, this is the guy I want to get to know here. And then off the field, you get to know him, and he's so easygoing. And as soon as he walked in our room and saw us playing Tecmo Bowl, he was in. And then, we both played basketball and then baseball. And so it was easy that we're around each other all the time. And he did a great job of just tolerating my ups and downs and continuing to go from sport to sport. And it just continued to get stronger and stronger.
How would you guys depict the nature of the University of Sioux Falls football program? I mean, we could go back to why you decided to go there. Kurtiss coming from Green River, Wyoming, Kalen from Millbank. At the time, like 1993 was your first year at quarterback, Kurtiss. You guys played together from 93 to 96. It was a 6-4, 5-5, 5-5 in the years before you got there. And what drew you to Sioux Falls, and what was the lay of the land like?
Well, they were 2-10 our freshman year,
Yeah.
And so I think there was a lot of guys that, were trying to figure out, is this where I want to be, and there was obviously no portal or anything like that. He just kind of moved on. I think Kurtiss was probably going through that a little bit, especially being so far from home and other opportunities that he could have gone different directions with from a football stance. And, but I just, that whole group that we had stuck together, and those are our, we're all such close friends now, because 2-8 became 8-3, became 11-1, became 14-0, and those relationships helped us come together in a special way. I went to University of Sioux Falls. Coach Young, he was the only full-time coach there, so it wasn't like you had these recruiters that were out there. It just became a place where, a couple hours from home, he took, there was opportunities for me to go play defense at the University of South Dakota or places like that. And that's not what I wanted to do, and play offense. And so it was just a natural fit. So, but again, Kurtiss, to me, if I could have picked Kurtiss, he was the ultimate competitor. I mean, just competitive on the football field. And, making no bones about it. I mean, he just was going to do, whatever he could to compete and be the best.
Was he competitive in any sort of annoying or off-putting way?
I remember one time I slipped on a route, and he's probably fed up, and this is just a route on air, and went to the ground. I think I slipped again, and he just decided he was just going to throw the ball and hit me in the head. So that's just how he was. Enough of this joker. We're gonna let him learn a lesson here, and that's kind of the how Kurtiss was early in those times.
Is this how you remember it?
Things have never changed.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure he's probably been a little forgiving with it even too. Yeah, when you asked that question of why we went to USF, I don't know. Like when I got there, they ran the option. I think what really got me there was, and this is ironic too, because my recruiting coordinator at University of Wyoming was Mike Van Dies, which is unbelievable because he comes back into Kalen and I's life. And so he asked me to then walk on. I'm like, geez, I'm going to be a tackling dummy. I don't want to do that. So some of my teammates, we go on a recruiting tour, and we go to Shattern State, and they party like crazy. I'm like, boy, I'm not going to make it here. We go to Black Hill State, who threw the ball 60 times a game. I mean, I should have went there. And we partied like crazy on the visit. I thought, this is going to be bad for me. And then we got to Sioux Falls, and he thought, wow, this is pretty nice. I could be a good person here. And then also they wanted me to play basketball. and they were going to get baseball. And I thought, you know what, that's all right. If I'm not going to go to Wyoming, I think going somewhere to play multiple sports would be good. But Kalen's right, though. After that first season, my first year there, I was like, man, this is a grease fire. I got to get out of here. And I actually went back and met with Coach Van Dees. And then thankfully, Coach Young brought in Jay-Woo Sim, and we decided to throw the ball a little bit. And that's when Kalen and I statistically started to really do some good things.
Yeah, a few good things. I mean, so was it just sophomore year, 94? That's when kind of everything started to click, Kalen?
Probably even more 95. Probably by the 95 season was probably the one where I think probably going from less than 30 catches for me to over 80, you know? And so Kurtiss, you know, was obviously the guy pulling the trigger there in 1995. And we just changed the whole system, you know, around what Kurtiss's skill set was. And we had other really good receivers, and Jeremy Gardner was an All-American tight end, and just a lot of guys that, you know, David Reuter could do it all out of the backfield. So that's kind of where we really took those next steps.
All right. So, I mean, you guys have mentioned what your first impressions of each other were like, and you moved in, like second semester, basically, after first getting to know each other. And I'm fairly certain I've read or heard, like you guys were really into the football. Like you really wanted to, you liked watching film. Like how did you start to connect together, roommates, film watching?
You know, we didn't, there wasn't a trainer. I mean, we didn't have a strength coach, trainer. So you had to do that, you know, internally. You had to be driven on your own. And we were really good about, I mean, we would go out and throw, we would go work out, we would do acceleration programs. I mean, everything was centered around wanting to be better, and the team. And maybe it was because watching, you know, the hardships of how awful it was losing, and seeing that and hearing everyone talk about it. But yeah, all our free time was that. And then it became contagious, you know, other guys in that same class all became bought in on that same thing. And I mean, that's really probably what carried us into that senior season where we were so dominant.
Yeah, I mean, just to go through the actual win-loss thing for a second, because you were, according to Wikipedia, 2-8 in 93, 8-3 in 94, 11-1, losing in the quarterfinal in 95. And so, yeah, things are, and that appears to be your only loss that season. But again, I'm still kind of going down the chemistry route and the developing of something into special in 96 storyline. And you know, Kalen, like for one, I mean, you expect the quarterback to be a captain, and certainly Kurtiss has become a coach, a head coach, an authoritative leader and personality. Was he like, how would you describe that once he kind of took the reins of the offense, and what he was like as a leader?
Oh, I mean, again, competitor. And so everyone just, it was easy to buy in. I mean, I think about, you know, he knew everything across the board. He knew every position. You know, the offensive line, what they were doing. We had so much of our offense was around the checks, the check with me's that Jay-Woo Sim did a great job of putting together along with Coach Young, and just turned it over to Kurtiss. And they made it simple enough to where he could check pretty much every play. And he could even go outside of the checks to audible to something completely different. Probably it was never a pass play audible to a run. I can tell you that. It was always run plays audible to a pass. I will say that was definitely a for sure thing. But we always joke, we gave David Reuter usually about one time to run the ball inside the 15, and then after that was your chance to score. And then the ball was going to go in the air. And that's how Kurtiss, I think, ended up with about 55 touchdowns that senior year. But no, in the end, I mean, buying into Kurtiss was easy obviously for me, but just the entire team just always came through. And production, you know, leadership, friendships, I mean, all those things that great leaders do. That was what he did.
Yeah. Kurtiss, did you kind of get, I mean, once you started to really click, did you get, sounds like you had free reign to audible. or maybe you didn't. I mean,
Yeah.
how much
Yeah.
freedom would the coaches give you to basically run the offense the way we've heard about, say, Peyton Manning running offense as he quarterbacked,
Yeah. I mean, it was pretty much that. And they were really good too about, they knew Kalen and I had such a rapport that if we saw something, I could change right away to it. And they knew, they knew we both saw it. And he would come back too and tell me, hey, I can do this here. I got this guy set up for this. And then the coaches would never question us. We were able to go to about anything we wanted there. They did a great job though. It wasn't just us going up there and spitballing. Like they did a great job of preparing us. Hey, here's the looks you'll get in these formations, and here's the plays that are good for these looks. And so you knew, hey, we're checking to these plays, and it's the ones that we're prepared for.
Yeah, I'm probably making it sound a little bit too much like backyard football. That's not what it was very structured, and it was a system that was put in place. And I think probably the thing I take from it now is just a reminder to give your guys a chance to go to the stuff on the field that are the gimmies. Like we always say, take what the defense gives you. And that's what I think we did a great job of those last 2 years in particular. And I'm always mindful of that even now.
Can you guys go back to some conversation, if it was the two of you or maybe others were in on it, where, I mean, Kurtiss, you mentioned how bad the first year was and the offense made the change that you were hoping for to make it worth your while just to be there. But do you guys ever remember a conversation or a distinct point where you go, we're going to take Sioux Falls USF to a level it's never been. We think we're good enough to do this. Do you remember talking in those terms off season, during season, anything like that? Or did it just kind of happen?
No, I think that junior year, I mean, it was kind of a figure it out as we go too, because we weren't sure. I mean, we were excited about doing the offense we were doing, but we were still learning. And even that playoff game at the end, I played terrible. I was awful. And Coach Young did a great job going in the media, making sure everyone knew that too. But it was such an eye opener for me. And I needed that. It was the humility that I needed. And then the senior year, we had such a understanding, every guy, like, as strong-willed as I was, our center knew exactly how I was and accepted me for that. Our left tackle, I mean, everyone except one of our defensive ends. You had to be a little careful with him. And sometimes I stepped a little too far there, and he would teach me a lesson. But everyone knew, or Chuck Morrell, I might get after Chuck, and then Chuck might say something like, you better tame it down a little bit there. And you knew you better back off a little bit. But everyone knew and accepted each other, and just responded so well, and then went out and never did more than what they needed to. They just did their job.
Okay. Well, we're certainly here for the stories, and we took a while to get to Bob Young. So let's get to that. I mean, Kalen, what's your favorite Bob Young story? I know it's a very broad, vague question to ask, but if it's either something that he said, huddle, pregame speech with you one-on-one, maybe he was surprisingly funny. We all know he was a very nice man, a great man. But yeah, what would stick out? Like,
I mean, because I coached with him for 5 years as well. And then obviously he was around the program when I was the head coach there for the other 5 years. And so there's so many things from things he did, that he probably couldn't get away with, even though he came across as, he was competitive, right? And so that competitiveness would come out in different ways. But he had his sayings. Are you trying to make me mad? You weren't. You loved the guy so much that you were doing everything you could to not make him mad because you knew he cared about you. And I think that thinking back to that first year and going 2-8, I think a lot of it on why the guys stick together is just because he showed so much care towards us that, just like, hey, we're going to hang in there with him. He was a tireless worker. He was teaching classes on top of being a football coach. you could just feel it and see it. He was putting everything into it. And so, I mean, as far as stories, I can tell you this isn't stories, but a lot of the sayings that we have to this day, winners win because that's what winners do. I mean, that's coming from those days. It's what I believe in, it's if you do the right things and you do the things that winners do, the success will come. I mean, really it's the process, right? It's the habits you have. It's who you are as a person and your character. And so, success starts with service, serving others as a leader, and, those things that just, they get worded in different ways. Those are the things I believed in back then that I saw work and saw that as an assistant coach. I think Coach Young, probably the biggest thing for me as a coach that, again, not stories, but just what he ingrained with me was challenging me. We're a small college program, but as a coach, like making the big time where you're at. And that's a Frosty Westering book that from the West Coast, Pacific Lutheran University, that he pretty much made us read as coaches before we could even really work for him. But that's what we were doing, and to us at the moment, it felt like the big time, and we made it that. We poured everything into it. We believed in what we were doing, and then just being convicted in why you coach, why you do what you do, what's your why and passion. And that we saw that in him. He lived it out every single day. And, that's along with being competitive and loving the game of football, that's what he taught me.
Kurtiss?
For me, it was he called me in after our sophomore year, and he just openly admitted how poorly he handled me, and for him to admit, and then take the step to fix it, was really important to me. But later on in life, I told him that hey, the greatest decision you ever made, and he started to say to finally get Jay Wu in here and get an offense. I was like, no, when you called me and asked me how I thought Kalen would be as a coach, I was like, man, whatever you were seeing and knew, like you knew. And then also he took a chance to have Kalen be the head coach too. I mean, Kalen was young and he coached at Washington and then at USF, and to say, hey, this is our guy. We don't need to go out and find anyone else. Just he knew. I remember him calling me and saying, Kalen's a single guy and he'll be able to work and make nothing. And he's so competitive that he'll make sure that we're always in the best positions. And I think he really also, Kalen being from Millbank, and Kalen understood how Coach had such success building relationships with kids he knew he wouldn't get, but then there'd be the chance they'd come back. And he was great at it. Kalen was able to carry that over and do very well with it too. And that's how I was like, that was the best thing you ever did. And for the University of Sioux Falls. And and he of course, hugged me, and then went in about 50 other stories, and you can never get away. Hey, one funny story. This is good. When I got inducted to the Hall of Fame for the NAIA, you had to have two people speak. And so I asked Coach Young and Kalen DeBoer to speak, and Coach Young went first. Well, Kalen knew what was going to happen. I didn't really know. But Coach Young goes up, and Kellen Winslow Sr. was introducing a guy that played in the NFL, a running back. I can't remember his name. You remember Kellen? Yeah. And Kellen Winslow gets done. The guy speaks, and then Coach Young goes up, and Coach Young, first thing he says is, let's say the guy's name's John. Man, John, I would have never even guessed you're an athlete. He goes, you don't look like you were athletic, and and he means it with so much love, though. And then he just starts going into stories. And then pretty soon you see Kalen walk up on the stage, and he's kind of like, all right, Coach, come on now, let's get going here. And it was one of those where it was supposed to be 2 minutes, and it was about 18 minutes. And finally Kalen was able to skirt him off the stage, and then we were able to get through it. But that's what it was. And no one would ever question it because everyone just loved him, and they knew he meant everything with love too.
Coach Young was the greatest at squeezing a 5-minute speech into 30 minutes. So
Yeah.
you could go on and on and on. So you always had to kind of work off him and just be ready. Especially I learned that as an assistant. So, he would do he would come in. I had him come in to do a chapel for us when I was the head coach, come back. And this is a big moment. I mean, he's around the program all the time, but, getting a chance to have Coach Young, the legend, come back. And, he had he always had the yellow pad. I was going to say iPad. He definitely didn't have an iPad. The yellow pad, legal pad, on a clipboard, and he had the rubber band around with the pencil underneath the rubber band there at the top. And, he's got all these papers, and he's got the Bible verses, and he's got everything there, but it's maybe in order, maybe not in order. And all of a sudden these papers are just going all over the place, and it's just, you could ad lib on it, I mean, it was coming from the heart always, but sometimes, you just never knew how long it was going to go. I guess that's where we learned.
Yeah. Well,
we learned. So,
and again, Kurtiss said almost every passing record at USF and the GPAC, and Kalen almost every receiving record. And many people know the story of what got Kalen into football coaching in the first place. And Kurtiss has told it. I believe Kalen has told it. I mean, I guess we could tell it real quickly. We're short on time for now. And then there were the years you coached together at USF that were incredible. But I've heard the story from Kurtiss's perspective, so I want to hear it from Kalen's perspective. The call from Kim Nelson just to get your way into coaching for Sioux Falls, Washington High School.
Yeah, I mean, thank goodness Kurtiss got a full-time job, because that allowed me to get a full-time job.
Yeah.
I had just come off of graduating. Kurtiss, you'd been teaching for a year, right? Yeah, so you'd been teaching for a year, working over at Washington. And I was just coming off of playing a summer of baseball in Canton, Ohio, and right at the end of the year there, it's August. I mean, I really don't have a job. It's like the scariest time. I always think about the college students leaving, and especially the ones that aren't going to go to the NFL, or college students I see around here, and we're talking. This is a kind of a scary time for me. Need a job, and Kurtiss got the opportunity to go to Roosevelt. Kim asked him, to if there's anyone he recommends, and fortunately, I had no place to live either, so I was living. And so it worked out, and became the head sophomore coach, and went undefeated, by the way, John. But yeah,
I've heard.
Yeah, but those 2 years were amazing. Kim Nelson and that staff was, high school days. It was a bunch of guys who were kind of veterans already there, and then coming in as a young guy, it was a blast for me. They open arm, just like you'd expect, were open arms, and had a blast coaching. I loved coaching high school football. It was great. And then Coach Young, Chuck Morrell, who I'm pointing this way because his office is obviously right here. He's my linebackers coach. Chuck was already the defensive coordinator for 2 years by that time at Sioux Falls. And, we got the chance to be coordinators together there those 5 years from 2000 to 2004.
For sure. Now this might be Kurtiss. Do you have to jet here?
No,
Pretty soon?
no. I got to 3:40, so I got 10 minutes, 14 minutes.
Okay, it is 3:40.
What? Oh yeah, I was looking at one clock says 3:26. So yeah, I got to go in about 4 minutes. I'll give you 4 minutes.
So look. You first joined the USF staff when Kalen took over as head coach. Is that correct?
He'd been coach for 1 year.
Okay.
Hadn't you, Kalen? Didn't you go 1 year? Yeah, and then he asked me. He's like, "Hey, would you?"
2005 you were with, because we went out.
Oh yeah, God, the worst ass whooping we ever took, John.
I didn't want to.
Yeah, yeah. Like that's the first time ever coaching where I was like, I have no idea what we can do. Offensively, what we could call, and then defensively, the same thing. Like, I don't know. I don't think I ever saw Chuck, and not that he would say he was helpless, but like we could not stop anything they were doing. And you knew it was bad in warm-ups when we go to walk up this hill to our locker room and it's pure ice and our guys are sliding all over the place, falling down, and their guys are running around like it's nothing. And we got whooped so badly, but I've always said that was the eye opener that Kalen and Chuck walked away from and saying, we got to be better. We can't just get by and win the games we're supposed to win. And that was really the catapult that took USF to the next level.
Right. Carroll College. What was the score?
That was 2005 against Carroll, and Kurtiss referenced Mike Van Diest, and Mike and I shared the same birthday, so we text. He actually calls now, ironically.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
The other day, ton of respect for him, but they beat us 55-0. And the thing I always take from that is the very next year. I remember thinking after the game, man, like we are a long ways from being where we want to be, and going back to a national championship. And it was the next year we went and won it. And so believing in the guys, making the adjustments, evolving, getting better, and if everyone does their job, that's what I took away from that year. And I'll never forget that.
Well, you guys went 55-1 together from that point on, 3 national titles in 4 years. That one loss was in a national title game. And there's a lot of places people can go and read about their USF history during the Kalen DeBoer era, but I would love to hear just how things worked on the headset between you two, because Kalen, you're the head coach, you're calling the offense, but Kurtiss is, I'm guessing, playing a big part. Like, how did it work between you two on the headset? Were there any moments of consternation there?
No, it was really easy for me. I mean, Kalen knew what he wanted to do, and it was pretty much, hey, we're 3rd and 7. Here's, our 2 best plays here. And he might pick one, or he might just be like, Jesus, you're an idiot. And he would have one already, or, he would already be 3 steps ahead of everyone else. And so that's where I learned a ton about, sometimes not always thinking you got to get a first down, sometimes put yourself in a better position to be successful. And it might be 3rd and 9, and let's have a winnable 4th down situation here. But usually it was just me rattling off a few situations, and then him going with whatever he felt at that point. There would be times he would ask, and then same with Ryan. I mean, people forget too, Kalen's offensive line coach was Ryan Grubb at that point. And back then though, Ryan would be like, power, gotta run power, or so, something like that. And to think how he's evolved too as a coach from when he first came in there is just amazing. But Kalen's coaching tree is really incredible, especially for how young he still is.
I think the thing that was so great, Kurtiss is so good. Number one, I think he's an unbelievable evaluator of talent. You've seen that with his time that he spent beyond. I mean, coaching the indoor football where you don't get the pick of the litter, but you're trying to find ways to put the best team you can together. And he's finding these guys that are out of nowhere and winning, championships against big school guys, over and over, year after year. But I think Kurtiss's ability to just see the big picture, he knows the details and all of that too. I mean, he's called plays for a million years, but I think the big picture and kind of where we were at in the game, and be able to just us communicate, back and forth, because you're when you're the head coach and you're on the field and you're calling plays, you're thinking about the defense too, and just making sure, everything's good there. Having Kurtiss in the box, someone you trust, it was just a really good situation. He could quickly and efficiently, we could communicate and get locked in on the next drive with the plan.
Well, he's quite the communicator. And before he goes, I just want to ask you, Kalen, is like, I don't know if you've ever heard games, or do you ever catch games that Kurtiss has commentated?
So it's funny you say that. The other day, I'm not home very often. I'm definitely not watching TV very often, but I was literally flipping through channels or doing a search of the sports, I think, and IFL. I'm going to check, didn't think about Kurtiss being where they're doing the game, and all of a sudden it's his voice, commentating the game. So then I was listening. He does an amazing job. I mean, it is really good. And it's, again, big picture, it's details, it's information. And then just like you would expect, good opinions, right? Good opinions. I don't want to get him in trouble. What you'd expect, not afraid to just put it out there. He holds back nothing, says what's on his mind. And, but I think that's what makes him great. makes him great at it. And so I was watching again, and then I knew that Peyton, his son, the offensive coordinator, calling plays for the Rattlers now in Arizona. I knew they were playing, so I caught a little bit of that game the other night when I got home too. So that was cool seeing Peyton call plays and Kurtiss actually commentating the game, which is very unique.
Why is it that you guys have stayed in touch so well for so long?
I mean, it goes back. I mean, your closest friends, right? I mean, it's like there's, I don't know, the circle's big, but I think the circle's small for both of us. Like there's a lot of people we know that we've been in touch. I moved around a lot. I mean, not just the city of Sioux Falls, but the entire, region. And now it's really national for Kurtiss when you think about even the stuff with the indoor football league and what he does there with the academy. The circle is big on what you do with your job, but the circle I think is small because you just need those people that you can trust. And so I can't say I trust him more than my wife because that I'd hear about that, but you're right there, and it's things you can just be real truthful and someone who cares and all that kind of stuff.
I kind of want to ask Kalen a couple more questions about Kurtiss. I've asked Kurtiss many questions about you, Kalen, over the years. So, but I want to be respectful of Kurtiss's time. So, do you?
Yeah. No, I got to go. You guys keep going. And Kalen, good to see you, man.
Yeah,
love you.
Love you, man.
Yeah.
All right. So Kurtiss has left the meeting, but I wanted him to hear what you thought, Kalen, of him as a commentator, because I've gotten to sit next to him calling a bunch of high school games for 5 years. And I have so many people who tell me they can't get enough of listening to this guy talk about football in real time. I'll talk to him about an hour every Monday because he's the go-to Monday afternoon quarterback to talk high school, college, pro, Alabama. But just in the games, they just say, even high school games, they just can't believe Kurtiss just said that. And he can say it. He can criticize, especially, of course, you would expect he loves to second guess or pick apart offensive play calls. That's kind of his thing. That's kind of your thing. And he knows he can do it if he doesn't like it because he knows all these coaches anyway. And he knows there's a respect there. He feels comfortable speaking his mind. But I'm curious, like going back to him, knowing him in college, how much does that line up that he's a guy that's, and now he's going to do 32 games for the indoor football league. He's a budding star over there at Yahoo calling pro games now. Does that line up with his personality?
It does. Again, it does. And I think, it shows, I think there's ways I'm trying to be efficient myself and explain. I think there's things that when he's calling games, you can see that he just sees the big picture and it just is natural for him to get a feel. And that's how he was as a play caller, just watching him over the years. And he can see the details happening within the blocking schemes. He can see, the ball's over here, but he can feel what's happening at the same time. He sees the whole field just like he did as a quarterback, always thinking ahead, being able to take the context of what happened early in the game and how that relates to what's going on. I've caught some games here and there, and it's fun to listen to him. But when I say opinionated, I want to be careful, but like he's not afraid to just say how it is, and that's what I love about him. I think I learned a lot from him over the years in that ways. I think again, you talk about offsetting each other. When we're on the football field, our personalities and things like that. I learned a lot from him, took some things from him. I think, I'd like to think that there was things that went the other way. And that definitely was the case in that 5 years when we were together, at Sioux Falls and how we fed off each other, especially during the game.
So how would you explain the similarities or differences, probably more so differences in your personalities and how it works?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that. It's in the end, the similarities are you do what's best for your team and your program. And you're going to still, have a respect for the game. You're going to have a respect for the people that you're going against, in the end. But you're also, just super competitive and feel like, not in an arrogant way, feel like you have a way of preparing better than your opponent, doing things in a way where you can get your team to believe, be able to come through in the big moments, and just give me some time, give him giving himself some time with his teams, and you're going to find a way to win. And whether that's in that moment, in that game, or over the course of the season, or over the course of years as you build what you're trying to build within your organization, or in our case, our program.
Sure. But differences, like just not even football wise, just your personalities, how are they different?
I don't know. I think there's probably less differences now, especially as we've gotten older. I mean, just, been around each other so long. So again, I think you take things, again, we talk all the time. That's why, he just will shoot you straight. If I pick up the phone and give him a call, I'm going to hear, and a lot of it you already know. I think there is a perspective that someone who's not in the fire has, and I can do that to him as well. Or I could. He's not coaching, anymore. But I think that's reality. We're not holding back, and then in the end, there's also just an encouragement too, because it's like we do believe. I believe that he is an amazing coach, and I think that's what he'd probably say in regards to me. So it's just a matter of you're not breaking that trust. You're just trying to help that person be better.
So after your typical Alabama game, what kinds of lines of communication are there between you and him about his thoughts on what transpired?
Yeah, I think
you call him. Does he call you, or what?
Sometimes it's a call. Sometimes a lot of times it's just text messages. And again, I think the more you know each other, I think about the coaches that I'm with now too. I mean, it doesn't take a lot. It's efficiency. It's just efficiency. Like, man, this, and it's like, yeah, I know, we got to get better there. We got it, boy, we were clicking in that way, or man, this guy really had a great game, this, whatever it might be. So, I think it's not a lot. It's not as much as, you're probably making it out to be. It's very efficient. And, but I do respect, what he says. And just like the people I really believe, respect across the coaching profession. And, if Jeff Tedford reaches out to me about something, I'm going to listen to that. I'm going to, if my staff says something, I got him here for a reason. I'm going to hear what they have to say, and I'm going to process it, and, going to use whatever information I get to help make me be better.
How do you process? That's the word I was going to use. The fact that, since 2009, you guys ended this incredible run together at USF, because you take the job at Southern Illinois to be the offensive coordinator. He stays in town. He just keeps winning titles for the Sioux Falls Storm, and grows the academy. And now he's kind of becoming a budding star in the commentating scheme. But how do you process? He's been here and he's been ripping it up, whatever he does here in Sioux Falls. But you've been out there, and now you've gone to Fresno and Washington and a national title game in Alabama. We all know the scope of that. So how do you process that? Like if he wanted to, or took your path to go to other places, to move up or around, what my guess is there's no ceiling there, right?
Oh, like yeah. You have these opportunities to go other places.
Yeah.
And, just sometimes it's not, sometimes timing, sometimes it's, it's just like, now, this definitely isn't the right move at the time. But there's been great opportunities that, he chose to not take. And, maybe because of the success and the direction of where things were going when he was coaching. Obviously what he does up there in Sioux Falls and the academy, how he's grown that to be, it's pretty special. I don't know if I've seen many other situations around the country, that are built up like what Kurtiss has done there, as far as at least regionally, and if he wanted to take it national, he could be, super successful there too. But, he cares about his community, the one that, he really didn't grow up in when he was younger, but obviously from the college days on, he's been there. And so he's had those opportunities. And so, it's just a different path you choose, and he's going to, you knew way back in those college days that he was going to be successful in whatever he wanted to do.
If he's on a headset and coaching or like calling an offense for Big Ten SEC, we think we're biased. Of course, we think he could handle that and he'd do great, but someone who's been there would be able to know better.
Yeah, no question. I mean, he's capable of all of it. There's not a doubt in my mind.
All right. Well, how much is there a desire or a wonder about him someday joining a staff of yours? And have you ever had discussions about that happening in your past couple of stops?
Oh yeah, we talk about it all the time, and just waiting for the right moment, the right opportunity, and what that looks like. That situation again, it's got to time up for him. It's got time for us. But just what's that role? What's that area of the program? There's a lot of different ways he could impact. But again, he loves doing what he's doing. And he's passionate about growing what he's got there, and he keeps making it better and better, and keeps expanding what he touches there and how he goes about it. And so it goes both ways.
All right. Well, we're glad he's still here. Those of us who get to continue to experience him here. It sounds like you're doing well. Congratulations on the extension. You've talked about that in other places. Is this like the chillest time of the year that you get as the Alabama head coach, or right around it?
We just kind of got through a little bit of that from a head coach perspective. We had spring ball. And then there's about a month where it's a lot of engagement with, the state, the donors, speaking the areas around the state is particular. We go to different functions. So now we are right now getting into the next 4 weeks where the team now is back on campus. They're training. We have meetings. We have 4 weekends of official visits, really from Friday through Sunday night. There's going to be, 9 to 12, or maybe even 14 guys that are here each weekend. So that's a lot. Then we got camps going on usually during the week. So there's a lot happening. This is definitely not, and you think June is a little low key. It's definitely not low key. It's one of the times where, you're going as hard as ever. So there's a week or two in July where, the staff has to get away, and, that's, you're getting ready for fall camp, but we pretty much have a lot of those things already in place. In fact, right before I got on with you, I was working through that with my assistants, and just the logistics of some of the things we're trying to get put in place to make it clean and make it efficient.
Well, besides traveling to see some of Alexis, your daughter's softball games for Washington, what's a happy place for you? A getaway when you get a chance? Do you have a lake home? Do you golf a lot? Do you travel? What do you do?
I'll probably get about 10 rounds of golf in, and they're almost all university functions. And I do enjoy that. Doesn't mean I'm good at it, but I do enjoy that. I'll tell you, everything is either University of Alabama and football or my family. I mean, that's really the two things. It's boring and awesome at the same time as far as the number of things. Obviously, the job's not boring. That keeps you, on your toes and moving. But, as far as the number of things that are hobbies and stuff like that, there's really no other time. And so if I'm not, and even when you're with your family, the football piece is still, Alabama's piece is still happening. So, these times with their kids, I got 2 girls. Alexis is going to be a junior already, and then my other daughter, Avery, is going to be a freshman in high school. So these times come and go. That's one thing I appreciate, I guess, that I do have a perspective on that. And, they love football and they love Alabama and supporting the team. So I'm fortunate in that way. So they love making, football is our family. Football is our family thing. It's our life, lifestyle. And so, I'm lucky to have girls that enjoy being around it and so supportive.
I mean, with Alexis, explain where all you got the chance to travel. The Athletic did a story about this. I mean, first team All Big Ten, both seasons, freshman and sophomore, Big Ten Freshman of the Year, first team freshman All-American. What kind of experience, what has that been like for you to go to wherever it's been? Lubbock here, Arizona there. to get away for a weekend and watch her play.
Yeah, no, it's been awesome. Seeing all the things that you do when you see them grow, and you think back to 6th grade and freshman or sophomore year, and the work that's been put in, and just how it's almost like the motivation continues to grow and grow and grow, which, sometimes when you've arrived, it doesn't. And she just keeps pushing and driving. She literally on a plane as we speak, coming back home, and the text message there is like, can you get me set up with workouts? And that's what you love to hear as a coach, but you'd literally love to see that as a dad, because those habits and those things are going to carry on to success well beyond the softball days. But couldn't be more proud of her, and especially the uniqueness of it being at Washington, away from here, just making a name for herself. I feel like, everything we've talked about being a good teammate and things like that, she works hard to do that. She's lucky to have such amazing coaches and teammates there that support her in an unbelievable way. And again, she, just like you talk about, I talk about the friendships with Kurtiss and our teammates back in the day. She's got those relationships building right now. I can see it, and you know what that's going to be like for her 5, 15, 25, 35 years from now. So it's cool. It's cool really seeing that happen, knowing what that path looks like, even though she doesn't even probably realize it.
For you, whether it's watching her games on TV or traveling to see some of her games, how much does most of us can't imagine the gravity of being in a position you are as a head coach at Alabama, and maybe I'm overplaying this, but how much does that help you get away from it all? I guess psychologically help you with the job, but also with your own mental health.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, the nice thing is you can sit there and actually softball in the game, even between innings, you can still take care of some work here and there. You can text me.
Sure.
But I think in the end, you're kind of hitting on something I do feel is that it is a little bit of the getaway. And I can tell you again, because I'm so proud of her, even just being in the spot she's in. It's not you're rooting for your kid. You want them to be successful. You want them to have their moments. But I just couldn't be more proud. I sit back and relax when I'm watching these games. Other than maybe one moment here, one moment there, when the season's on the line and things like that. It's just I'm blessed, and the competitiveness and the stuff that comes along with being at Alabama, and how important game day is, and the wins, and it being your job. I think that's one level of it, and then enjoying it as a dad is the other opposite end of that, and I know that Nicole feels the same way.
You've talked plenty about the wins and the losses, where the program's at, the NIL and the portal and the challenges of that job, and what you have in store at Alabama for all that. Again, in other spaces. So I'll just ask you this: as we land the plane, I let you move on to whatever's next. How much better are you at I guess I'll use the word processing again, the gravity of the gig, or have you found it to be, for your own self, not as heavy as maybe as you thought you were walking into, or maybe it's heavier, but how are you? I mean, you go to year 3.
I just respect the position so much. You just pour everything into it, and as far as the day to day, just try to remember what we talked about earlier and why you got into it. Even though there's a lot more to it, because there's the expectation to win football games on Saturdays, and how does that happen? The habits, the process, each and every day. Just bring everything you got, and I try to keep that perspective, and that just remind myself that that's all you can control. And so I got a staff around me that I think thinks the same way. They give 100%. They're great people. I trust them. They work not just hard, but they work smart. They work together. And so just trying to provide an atmosphere and an environment where everyone wants to be a part of it. That's where it's contagious. The feelings and the energy and the attitude that we have to have in order to win. I'm just trying to facilitate that, bring it to our staff, which then trickles down to our players. And I just enjoy, I mean, the guys are back on campus and, walking through the weight room even this morning when I got back from some meetings or down in Destin, Florida for SEC,
Yep.
just being around them is that's what I love. It was like the best day in like a month, because they've been gone for a few weeks. And so it was a blast, and can't wait to continue to go through the summer. And then obviously the fall is going to hit here quickly. And, it's, again, I refer to it the fire or whatever, I'm looking to run to it with these guys and build a team that's ready, ready for the battles that come our way.
I'll ask one question. You've probably been asked a lot, will be asked a lot. How close are you guys? Like in that gap between you and Indiana, who goes on to win the national title, how close are you? What needs to be done to kind of fill that gap?
Yeah, I think we came a long ways in a lot of areas. Last year, I think they got to make sure that those areas that became strengths, that you just don't take it for granted. We were great in big moments, and how were we big? We practiced them. We were very intentional. We were disciplined. We played hard. We never gave up. We were great in adversity. When adversity was coming our way, and there's things we got to get better at, because obviously we fell well short. But the story I told you about 55-0. I've referenced it, but never said which scenario it was. That's one of them that I always am mindful of, and that you never want to sell the kids short. You never want to. Again, I got on the plane after that game. We lost 55-0, and it's like, dang, we're a long ways away. But those guys were ready to work that next year, that 2016. And I've had other teams that, in different ways, do the same thing. You might be even as an assistant, the steps that you took from year one to year two. I can think about that at Fresno. I can think about that at Washington. Whether it's within a season, but especially from year to year. And that's what we got to do. And again, there's so much turnover probably now on our team compared to what it was then. You really do start all over. And what you were last year, those weaknesses and strengths, you just, there's a lot of new faces. I think there's still enough carryover of players to where a lot of the things you do well are going to be what you continue to do well. And there's some areas we got to improve to, like you said, bridge the gap, be better. And, again, I'm never going to sell our guys short. I don't put a number on the wins, because a lot of times I don't want to undersell what we are capable of doing. Some people always ask, going back many years ago, like, what's a successful season for you? And they actually define it. And I'll never put a win number, because a lot of times we win more games than what I probably would have said is successful. And, you get to that point and your team hears those words, and we're going for everything every single year, maximize what we're capable of. That's the key.
Yeah. Does it drive you nuts that there's so much turnover now, or it's the way it is and you just adjust and figure it out?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's a lot like it was back in Sioux Falls. You have we had Kurtiss referenced keeping doors open and getting transfers in. Well, back then, you could really only transfer down without sitting out. And so being at an NAIA school, we got the Division II, we got couple junior college guys, some 1AA guys that came in. We did have an FBS guy or two that would come in, a couple. I mean, I think about 2008, Kyle Stout and Sean Flanagan coming in. Sean's there coaching, locally, and those guys coming in from their FBS programs. Sean was at Oregon, playing some pretty quality snaps there. I think, getting those guys in, we were able to bring in some guys that were difference makers. We'd bring probably 9 to 12 guys every single year that were transfers. You got your high school guys, and we had to over recruit high school at Sioux Falls then. So I'm used to the turnover. I'm used to that. This probably reminds me more of those days than anything. So, but that doesn't mean that everyone else is used to that. I got to get the rest of our staff to, and they understand, but get just everyone be on the same page. And our players is what's really most important. It doesn't matter what I know. It doesn't matter what staff knows. It matters what our players know.
Is there any walking on eggshells you feel sometimes with players knowing that, you're trying to develop them, make them the best players they are, but there's only 22 spots on the field. And do you ever worry or have to approach things differently, knowing if I don't say the right thing or play them, they're going to leave? I mean,
No,
it's part of coaching now.
You just got to do what's best for the program always.
Yeah.
That's coaching staff, that's the players. The accountability of, that you got to make sure that you're holding everyone to, including yourself. That's what matters most. And you got to always do what's best for the program. That's what I'm in charge of doing. And, just that's what it comes down to. The things you say, the decisions you make, all of that. If you put the team first, I think everyone will, in the end, feel okay about your decisions if it is shown up in a way, where that was the case. So I don't, I think what you do each and every day, as far as the effort that you give as a coach, our coaching staff gives, that I think will override any of the one-off things or the things that happen, maybe that don't go over quite so well with a player because, maybe they need a little bit of a push, or, they're making the same mistakes multiple times. So, again, accountability, I think, is still what these guys want this day. People always say, well, back in the day, kids are different now. They're not, they still have the same things internally that we had when I was playing. You want to be coached hard. You want to be the best you can be. You want to have great experiences. You want to have your individual success, but, that will lead to team success too. So, there's just different, it's just out there more for the world to see than what it was back 20, 30 years ago.
Gotcha. Hey, this was enlightening, enjoyable, and hope it was worth your time as well. I think we left a lot of stories with Kurtiss on the table, but that's okay. Hopefully
We definitely did. Ones that we can't put out here.
If we can find ones that we can,
you probably imagine, but it was good times. It was good times. So it was fun to relive
the show's called Happy Hour. Ideally, you and Kurtiss and me are here. We've got Coors Lights in front of us, and maybe better stories will come out. Thanks, Kalen. Appreciate your time. Stay right there. We're going to make sure this gets preserved. For Kalen DeBoer, video producer Cordell Wright, I'm John, and Kurtiss Riggs. Happy Hour, and cheers.
You need anything else, John?
No, I think I'm good, Greg. I think I'm going to tap out.
All right. Have a good night.